and we're gonna get started. Um, Again, my name is Steve Kodad. My partner Lisa Albin is with us, and I'll have her introduce herself in just a moment. But again, thank you very much for deciding to join us. And a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. We're going to, of course, talk about how very important curb appeal is with Feng Shui. So before I introduce myself and tell you just a moment about myself, I'm going to let Lisa tell you a little bit about herself. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, great. Hi, everybody. Welcome here. We're so excited to have you and talk about the importance of curb appeal. Again, I'm Lisa Albin. I'm Steve Kodad's partner in the Intrinsic School of Feng Shui. I own a Feng Shui consultancy called Cloud9 Feng Shui, where I work with quantum energy as well as interior design in my own process. I also manage a group for high vibe entrepreneurial women where I help them develop their own businesses. So again, it's a great honor to have you here, and I'm going to kick it back over to Steve.
All right, thank you, Lisa. So my name again, of course, is Steve Kodad, and I own the Feng Shui Cure. Is the name of my company from, oh boy, about 18 years now. And I have a website called that also. And my background was with respect to Feng Shui and in real estate. That's really what I was doing a lot of. And we started our school a little over 4 years ago. So again, as Lisa said, this is the Intrinsic School of Feng Shui, the two of us. And we train and certify new professional Feng Shui consultants around the country and around the world, actually. And if you're interested in more information about that, please let us know. We're a gold standard school that was awarded to us by the International Feng Shui Guild, which is our governing. Now, curb appeal is hugely important. And again, as you can imagine, with my background in real estate, I found out quite quickly how important it was. And so before we started the Intrinsic School of Feng Shui, I was talking to a lot of real estate agents, primarily, and home stagers. And so at that point, I created something called the 8 most impressionable moments for when you're selling a home. And that's because I found out it was the number one thing. And as you're going to find out a little bit in this, your photos will pop if you're involved with that kind of thing. And after you do Feng Shui, they're going to actually just stand out like crazy. So Feng Shui, to me, is everything is about attraction for a lot of things. So keep that in mind. Not only attracting attention of other human beings, you're attracting energy, or what we call qi, into your house, into your office, or whatever. So it's extremely important that you always keep that in mind. We're attracting these kind of things. We're also attracting opportunity. So your yard, especially the front yard, should be what I consider a magnet. And if it's not, doesn't matter if you're selling or if you're living there and you're not going to sell, you really need to try to set your front yard up to be special. Yeah, you want your neighbors to talk about you in a good way, of course, but you want to set it up as a sort of like a magnet that gets people's attention. And if you get people's attention, you'll find out that the energy will be coming in too, to also help an awful lot to make the house or the office be very, very comfortable. So your yard should be of interest. It should be, but don't make it overwhelming. Probably, if you're living in a subdivision, you probably have somebody that you and your significant other talk about all the time because their yard is overwhelming. It certainly gets interest, but that's not what we're looking for. Feng Shui is a lot about getting balance and harmony in all environments. So if it's overwhelming, that's not good. Your yard should turn heads when people are by. But if you get this done right, you make it come off to be very comfortable to people. There's a way of making it uncomfortable by doing certain things, as you're going to find out. So we want to make sure that it comes off comfortable for everybody, including yourself when you come home. So you also want to make sure that it shows that your yard is easy to maneuver and get to the front door without any problems. And you want to make sure that the address of your property is also very obvious for people. So you want to take away any kind of confusion or frustration. And I'm going to show you a picture that is, sort of funny, I guess. And hopefully you don't have a yard like this in your neighborhood or close by. To me, this is confusing and on a lot of other things that I probably can't even say. But it's really got a lot of problems. You really don't feel like it comes off as very natural. So you can even have a yard that looks like this one, but still have some of the same effect. If you look at the picture on the right-hand side, you're really not sure how you're going to get to the door. So you want to make sure that it's fairly obvious. You don't want to hide the door. You don't want to have a yard that shows to have an awful lot of, you might say, clutter. Yeah, your outside can have a lot of clutter also. And if that's the case, it comes off all wrong. It's not really comfortable for people, but you want to make sure that they can see how to get up to the front door. Now, even a small bungalow like this, could use some help. Even the pathway right here is slightly hidden. The door is somewhat hidden. And then Lisa and I run into places like this quite a lot where the walkway has been sort of overgrown a little bit. You might like this. Maybe the people in this house probably like it too. But can you understand that you're going to have to get extremely tiny to get through there without brushing up against the left or the right side? There are times when you really want to have some kind of growth over top of a sidewalk to create sort of a meandering pattern. But that's not in this case. This case is really overgrown. So a person walking there subconsciously feels like, hey, looks a little bit worrisome to me. I might be rubbing up against some, I don't know, poison ivy or some thorns or whatever. So you always want to take away obstacles that give the subconscious the idea, hey, something's not quite right. So this is overgrown. You might like it, and I know they put a lot of time and effort into it, but this is not very welcoming to people. It's not very welcoming to visitors. And then here's another example. This one's got a straight walk, and in some cases, Lisa and I would like to have some of this overlapping to create more of a meandering path. We're always looking for meandering pathways and not straight shots. But again, they spent a lot of time in it. They're probably extremely proud of it. But this doesn't quite work real well because, again, it's not extremely welcoming to our subconscious. And then if you look at the plants that are sort of framing the door, some of them are coming off as unnatural. We're all about showing a natural feeling. So that's not going to work either very well. And then before I turn it over to Lisa after this one, here's another one. Again, they put an awful lot of time and effort into this. Again, I'm sure they're very pleased with it, but this comes across as being too much. It's overgrown too much. It's starting to hide some of the windows a little bit and taking away the all important natural light that we're always trying to attract. Even the vines on posts can definitely be something that we really don't want. So we want to look at this with different eyes. I like the color, but again, it comes off as being not quite as welcoming as we'd like it. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa now for a few slides, and here's Lisa.
Yeah, so as Steve pointed out, many of those houses were really cute and had a lot of personality. But if those of you out there that work in real estate, I'm sure you've come across where you're taking your clients to look at a house and they don't even want to get out of the car because they're worried about what they're going to step in, or it looks like it might be haunted. A home needs to look like it's attractive and welcoming and safe to walk into. Not only are we looking for properties to be attractive in feng shui, but we're looking for them to have a level of protection, so safety and security. And this comes from a really deep ancient reasoning going back to landform school, which is the oldest school of thought that we use our basis in feng shui. And I'm going to get a little bit into that. So when you are approaching a home, you're looking for that front area, the front yard, to be just beautiful and lovely and welcoming. It should be very impactful, but in a very pleasant and natural way, as Steve was referencing. You can see one there, very natural, colorful, attracting. This is a home that I think your clients would get out of the car to walk into. This is a home that you would want to approach for a party as well. You can see the path very well manicured to get to the front door. And we also want to take a look at the sides of the yard too. Those are equally important in feng shui, and I'm going to get a little bit more into that as well. So the sides we're looking for should be supportive to a home and its occupants, offer some privacy, and also cleared pathways. There's some lovely examples here. I love that Japanese garden gate too. What a lovely touch that is. But yeah, it's just anything that we can do to make a good use of the property. And that fencing and the trees and the landscaping, that offers us a sense of protection. And in feng shui, we refer to those as mountain areas of protection. So while those are not necessarily mountains, there isn't, this house could be in the mountains. I think it's in, is this in North Carolina, Steve?
The one on the right is, yeah.
Yeah, the one on the right. So when we talk about mountain areas of protection, we're not actually talking about physically necessarily needing to have your home surrounded by mountains. We're talking about the feeling or the energy of protection, giving you support and privacy and allowing those lovely views to be exposed so you can see a nice place to enjoy and really imagine and be inspired by your yard and your landscaping. So mountain energy can be created by tall trees, fence lines, creative landscaping. Even you see the variety of landscaping on the bottom far right against that fence line. That's a nice, secure mountain energy of protection. And again, where this comes from is the ancient school of landform. And that's where we developed the principle of the classic armchair effect. So in feng shui, we're looking to have protection, a strong energy of protection to the back of us and on either side. So imagine sitting in an armchair and you have that nice back, it's secure, you feel supported in your back. And on either side, you have your armrests and you have a good visibility of who's coming into a room and around you. Now, picture the same scenario with a house where the house can see the front and who's approaching and the lovely views. Here's an example of a nice front yard. There are some tweaks that we might make as consultants and recommendations here, but notice the natural curved flower beds. So in feng shui, we want to avoid too many straight lines, anything that looks unnatural. And when we get into the curvy and rounded shapes, that's a lot more, that's friendlier and softer to us. So that's an energy that's very welcoming. And here's another example here. Although we'd like to see a little bit more color and variation done in these properties, this is giving you the idea if you want your flower beds to be curved and meandering again, as Steve mentioned, like a healthy flowing river. Here's an example of some very practical items that we integrate in our feng shui consultations as cures and how they might be applied. Shapes tell us a story, and shapes are aligned with energies that you can find in the 5 earthly elements of nature. Now, for example, the half moon doormat there is really favorable to us in feng shui because it takes away sharp edges. So any opportunity we have as feng shui consultants to recommend areas where we can place a round or softened edge is really highly desired. And that's because it allows energy and people to advance without being confronted by a sharp edge, or as we call it in Feng Shui, a poison arrow. And always lovely to have beautiful color, flowers. We use a lot of flowers at the entrances as well and throughout a home, but it all starts outside. We're going to take a look at some color and natural environments here so you can see a variation. Each color is also aligned with a natural element as well that we carefully prescribe in Feng Shui to be balanced and harmonious. And another example of, see how those purple flowers really add a nice punch into the mix there. Each color, for example, purple in Feng Shui is often lined up with prosperity. So that's really lovely and welcoming to have in a yard as well. Here again, you see outside of this house, I love the flower pots placed at the edges of the stairwell there. Really, really nice. And again, some variation in size and color. So I'd say between 3 and 5 different colors and variations is a great recommendation for the front of a property to add that visual interest and to be more welcoming.
Yeah, as Lisa is saying, the color is a very important aspect of what we're trying to do here all the time. And we actually get into it in our classes about where the best place for whites, and yellows, and reds, and so forth, and which colors are the most attracting to a human being and how to use them. But this is done very well in a lot of ways. This one's not. So there are some things in here that I want to point out to you that will, I think, make sense to you.
You want a sweet potato and broccoli, or you're full?
So you find out Feng Shui is a lot about making sure that it's very safe and secure for anybody to be able to walk up to the front door. And in this case, that's not the case. They went a little bit overboard putting these pots on both sides. So therefore, somebody can't really use the railing either on the left or the right. So that hurts the potential for somebody that might be older or somebody that's disabled. So Feng Shui is all about making sure that it's a very secure, safe environment. So definitely, we probably would take away the pots on one side or the other at least. One thing I want to say that's positive, they've used rounded pots. So we advocate rounded pots when you frame the door. And it is important to understand how to frame a front door. Very, very pivotal to draw attention and get the chi or the energy into the house. Another thing I want to mention is this door. The door is actually of a very poor color for this house. And the reason why is because it blends in with the exterior. You never want that to happen. You want to make sure that the door color is different than the exterior color, so it pops. Again, not all of you are in real estate, but you can understand that if the front door is not very obvious and really pops out, you're really missing something here. So you can imagine your photos. The photos of this front entrance is not going to knock their socks off. So poor contrast is something we talk a lot about in the module on curb appeal that we do in our training. Now here's one where, they probably spent some time at it and it's fairly natural looking, but there's no color to it. There's not an awful lot of variation. In this case, they do have the flower bed having a meandering pattern, which is very positive. There is a little dash of color here and there, but it's really not enough. And if you notice that the windows are covered, which is a real no-no, we want to make sure that all the natural light that we want to get into the house can get in. Here's another house that was done very, very, probably spending a lot of money on. And again, there's just no contrast. There's a lot of nice things here, but it's missing something very important. They actually used some pots, rounded pots with some colored flowers, thank goodness, but the rest of the yard is really lacking that. So add some color. You know, whether you use a flower box or you use it in the ground or pots,
Let me go see you.
you'll find out that that's really very, very helpful. And then again, the amount of color that you put into it will really pay off a lot of dividends. Your visitors will find it much more attractive, much more compelling. And then I want to show you a before and after before we open it up to some questions here. This is a house that, you know, it's a fairly normal house.
What is going on?
But we're going to make some changes to that right now. So if you look right here, you can see that they put a bed in that is got meandering pattern. They have got color.
I never seen nothing like this.
I'm sorry that somebody has decided to let their mic on.
But you went on a field trip, right?
But anyway, you can see there's a big difference right here where they have a circular and curvy beds, and they have some nice color. So in summary, and before we get into any kind of questions that you might have, you really do need to use color, but it's like anything, don't go overboard. When we even talk about the inside, there's a lot of things that people go overboard on. Less is always more in Feng Shui. Always make the flower beds curvy and natural looking. Don't use straight lines. Straight lines are man-made. So if you see a flower bed that is a rectangle or a square, it does not come off as comfortable and as attractive to a human being. Never block the sunlight in the window for the windows entering a home. You know, you might need to cut it back somewhat, but you make sure that it doesn't go overgrown. And please spend special attention at the entrance. It's extremely important in Feng Shui. If you've read any books about Feng Shui, you know that it has a special name called the mouth of Qi. So we really have to pay an awful lot of close attention to that. So as you can see down at the bottom, if you'd like further information on our certification, training, mentoring, which we do, send an email to this particular address, office@intrinsicschooloffengshui.com. And we appreciate you showing up. It is being recorded. I'm sorry about some of the sound, but we will send it out to you. And if you have some questions, please go ahead and open up your mic and ask some questions. We'd love to hear from you. So go right ahead.
Yeah, Steve, I'm so happy that you made that last point about paying special attention at the entrance, because that's one reminder, especially in the change of seasons, where you can make significant impact to the energy of a property and how a home feels inside. So really doing that Feng Shui maintenance and updating that mouth of Qi, maybe changing the hardware or updating just the floor mat or the flowers. And splashing some paint on it. Even if you don't want to paint it, just wipe it down. It can make a huge impact.
Yeah, it is extremely important. Again, the front door needs to be of a different color, or at least a different shade from the exterior. It needs to stand out. And anything you can do to make it really, really pop is important to you. You'll find out that your neighbors actually are more drawn to your house. You'll find out if you're selling that buyers will be more drawn to your house. And I promise you that the photo of the front will pop a lot more. And whether we like it or not, a lot of people nowadays find homes that they're interested in on the internet. So the pictures are really pivotal, and Feng Shui does a fantastic job of making sure that people, when they're at your office, if you're a real estate agent on the MLS, or if you're looking at realtor.com or whatever, and you're going through it fairly quickly, you know, you'll stop in your tracks at this home because the pictures really are very compelling. So do we have any questions at all before we call it an evening? And I thank you for showing up. Anybody have a
Just a-
question? We'd love to answer them.
Just a comment, Steve, if I may,
Sure.
and thank you, Lisa, for doing this as well. I'm a real estate agent, and this was important for me to see, because I see all kinds of homes from the outside, and some of the pictures you showed there, I've seen a lot of those, and some in disarray. And how do you
Yeah.
get to the front door?
Right.
But I also did a staging seminar, and half of it was spent on the outside. That's 50% of the sale of the house.
It is. It is.
And it's very important. And to use splashes of colors on the yard, to have the door pop, the front door, have things, fixtures accompany the door, so that it all blends together, it all works together, and the door is not in disarray, the front door. I mean, I've seen a little bit of everything, and people don't give it as much attention that they should. All right, they feel
Right.
all is on the inside. That's where you spend your time, your money. But I got to tell you, from rain gutters to roofing to gardens, you don't have to spend a ton of money, but give it some effort to increase the value of the home. Because once they drive by, it's like a meal. If the appetizer is really good, they may forego a couple of things on the inside that may not be as good.
That's right. That's right, Jeff. Yeah.
So
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I have always told my clients when I was involved with real estate that if you've only got a few $100s to prepare, put it all on the outside. That is number one. That's number one. That increases traffic more than anything. So I certainly appreciate your comment, Jeff. Definitely. And anybody else have something they'd like to say or ask? Well, we're going to be doing these on a consistent basis, everybody. So, I hope you keep checking on LinkedIn and on Facebook for us. So Lisa and I enjoy doing this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
thank you all for showing up. And I just want to say, I see you all out there coming from different fields. And I want to recognize those of you who already work in the home space, in real estate, in staging, in interior design. You have a keen intuition already. And so a lot of what we're talking about is probably more of like a aha. Yeah, I know this. I have experienced this. Knowing why you have these feelings, or why your clients are having feelings in different homes, or why something isn't selling, or what could push the needle, and finding out that there's a feng shui reason behind it is so empowering when you realize that there's a method. There's a method to the madness. And those of you out there in the holistic fields too, it's really just a more fine tuning and calibration of the intuition that you already have. And each of you too are showing up because you have a desire to help, right? A desire to help people within their own homes, for perhaps help yourself, help your family in your home. And that's a great feeling. And there's very simple, practical things that you can be doing on a daily basis to really raise the vibe, really raise the energy and the attraction of any space. So I want to thank you each for showing up. You can find me and Steve on all the different networks. Find us on LinkedIn, of course. Many of you came through LinkedIn. You can hook up with us on Facebook and also on Instagram too. We show up. So I value your questions anytime. If you forget something, or if you're watching the recording and you want to email us and you have a question, please feel free to do that. We're always here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a great point. So again, if you have some questions, go ahead and send them to us. We'll be glad to try to help you out a little bit here. And, we'll be sending this recording out by tomorrow. And again, we want to thank you, and you all have a very good night. Thanks so much.
thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.